It's time for Twit This Week in Tech. Yeah, we're back. A brand new show. We're going to look ahead to CES. We're off to CES coverage tonight. What will we be finding there? 5G, security, and the new Wally Pod chair. We'll also talk about a new bill that's been signed into law that should help stop robocallers, and why Google is giving up the Dutch sandwich with the Irish runaround. It's all coming up next on Twit This Week in Tech. Comes to you from the LastPass Studios in Petaluma, California. Securing every access point in your company doesn't have to be a challenge. LastPass unifies access and authentication to make securing your employees simple and secure. Check out lastpass.com/twit to learn more.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Twit This Week in Tech, episode 752, recorded Sunday, January 5th, 2020. More seam than bezel. This Week in Tech is brought to you by Guru. How do you find the answer to customer questions? Who are your top 10 competitors? What's the Wi-Fi password? Was it hard to answer those questions? Guru thinks it should be easy to get the knowledge you need. They designed Guru to be your single source of truth. Try it free right now at getguru.com/twit. And by Health IQ. Health IQ uses science and data to secure lower life insurance rates for healthy people like you. To see if you qualify, go to healthiq.com/twit and take the Health IQ quiz. It could help you save up to 41% on your life insurance premiums compared to other providers. And by FreshBooks, the #1 accounting software in the cloud for self-employed professionals and their teams. Improve workflow and streamline your business with FreshBooks Teams. Try it free for 30 days at freshbooks.com/twit. And by Casper. Casper is a sleep brand that makes expertly designed products to help you get your best rest, one night at a time. Get $100 towards select mattresses by visiting casper.com/twit1 and using the promo code twit1 at checkout. It's time for Twit This Week in Tech. I'm back. The new year has begun, and we have a bunch of new news to talk about. Joining me today on our panel, it's some of my best, oldest friends. Ed Bott, I've known for 30 years. He is the author of the Ed Bott Report at zdnet.com. Ed Bott on the Twitter. Hello, Ed.
Hey, Leo. Good to see you.
Happy New Year. We were just talking about birthdays, and I realized it wasn't the turning 63 that made me feel old. It's the year 2020 that makes me feel old.
Oh, man.
Doesn't that...
Don't get me...
Aren't we in the future? I mean, here's
well,
another...
as somebody reminded me today, when, 1980, right, when Ronald Reagan was elected, that was... anyone born in the 1980s, they're starting to turn 40 years
40s.
Old now.
They're in their 40s. It's 40 years ago.
40s. Yeah,
2001,
crazy.
A Space Odyssey. We should be on the moon. We should have video. Well, at least we do have video phones now. 2010, the year we made contact. Still waiting for that. Last year was Blade Runner, 2019. So, I don't know. I feel like we're living in the future. Also living in the future with us, all the way from the Houston Chronicle's Tech Burger. Our good buddy. Haven't seen you in a while. Glad to have Dwight Silverman. Oh, are you? Can we? There we go, Dwight. I'm looking for the shot. Dwight Silverman.
Here I am.
Here he is. Hello, Dwight.
Hey, how are you doing, Leo? It's a beautiful, wonderful day here in Houston. The sun is bright. It's cool. The trees have all lost their leaves, and it's actually looking like January.
And the Texans won their game.
And the Texans won yesterday. This is a rare thing for them to win a playoff game, and now they face the Ravens next week.
I feel sorry for you on that one.
Yeah, they don't have a good record against the Ravens, but it was a hell of a game yesterday.
Wasn't it?
So long as you watch it from the third quarter on. The first quarter was kind of...
Yeah, Lisa was saying, I was home late, and she said, don't worry, it's a boring game. I sat down, and then the fourth quarter, it was like, whoa. So we thought we'd get one person who was born in the 80s on the show. Ben Brock Johnson is also here. Senior producer, WBUR, Boston Public Radio. Great to have you, Ben.
Great to be here. I feel like I'm a water boy among kings. So thank you very much for having me with all of you.
Kind of you to put it that way. You could have said, "I feel like I'm walking amongst dinosaurs," or something like
Well,
that.
you're talking about the future. This is 5 years after Back to the Future Part 2.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So where are my laceless Nikes, man?
They exist.
We're going to
They
see them at
exist.
CES.
They exist.
And also
That's
you
right.
don't get
That's
those
right.
until you turn 80.
Yeah, then we get them. We all get them.
Yeah.
So, show of hands, which nitwits amongst us are going to CES this year?
Oh man.
Can you believe it? I am going.
Short straw.
Yeah, I feel like I got the short straw. I haven't been since 2012. It's been 8 years. And I thought, well, maybe every 8 years, every 8 to 10 years, if I go, it'll be like there'll be something new there.
Do you have a car and driver?
No. Should I?
That's the only way to survive.
That's how Dvorak would do it.
Yeah, that's how Dvorak would do it for sure.
That's the question I always ask. How would Dvorak
What would
be doing?
Dvorak
What would
do?
Dvorak do?
WWDD.
Yeah, it's a grueling 4 days, but I feel like I've kind of felt bad last few years not going, so I thought I really should go. So we're going to do it a little differently than we normally do. It's going to be me and Aunt Pruitt, our newest host, in a single camera with a very wide angle lens because he's kind of muscular, and then we'll be just doing that old. I won't do crowd surfing, but I'll be doing the old hold the camera out stick and.
Well, he's a good camera guy, so you're set, man.
Yeah, we're set. We're going to have a lot of fun. We also have our regular expert, Scott Wilkinson, will be doing a tour of the home theater area. Stacy Higginbotham, IoT. Dick D. Bartolo will show us the crap in the Sands basement. Always a lot. All the stuff, all the junk.
I love that stuff.
I
That
know.
stuff is the best.
I know.
It's the best.
Yeah. That'll be fun. And then who am I missing? Sam Abul Samad is our car guy. He's going to take us to the North Hall where all the new car stuff will be. So
Who do you have debunking the 5G myths there, Leo?
okay, let's talk a little bit about, first of all, CES. Part of the reason none of you are going, and anybody who's got any stature in the tech reporting community manages to get out of this. It's always the young people who get stuck with this. Because you don't see anything usually important, right? It's not the place you go to make a big announcement.
Correct.
You
It's
see
sort of like
stuff.
South
You don't
by,
see it
though,
on.
right?
Say again, Ben?
In a way, like it's sort of like South by. You get a couple of things that kind of pop off.
Maybe.
What was the?
Yeah.
Was it the 3D printing pen?
Yeah.
Is that the?
Yeah.
And then also, didn't they announce one of the smartwatches? Sort of popped off, I think, in 2012 or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
so there's a
it's
handful of important things.
right.
There's rarely any surprises. Most of the
Well,
stuff
you see stuff in the private meetings. When you book meetings with.
Yeah, but those are the
with,
things I can't bring a
companies.
camera into, right?
That's right. That's right. But that's where the
Well, that's
action
correct.
is off the
Yeah.
floor.
Well, I'm hoping
And
Stacy.
that to me is the real value. If there is value in CES, it isn't actually the products that are on the floor. It's more the fact that all of your peers are there and all of the companies are there, and so you can book meetings with them and talk about what they're going to be doing in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and a year. And then the products themselves. There's usually a bunch of kids who work for blogs, who have to do 22 posts a day, who are just running around like crazy, snapping and every booth that you go to, there's somebody standing there, holding the product in front of them with a camera like this and saying, so I'm doing this and blah, and I'm doing and really earnest and you're trying really hard not to interrupt.
That's going to be me this year. Thanks for painting that beautiful picture.
Well, you could be paid. You could probably ask for, I don't know, $25 a post.
Oh Lord, what have I gotten myself into? Well,
you have official Apple presence this year.
That's
right?
different, right? Apple doesn't have a booth, and they haven't had a booth, but they will at least, and they've always been there in some unofficial capacity. But so, what is their
and
official?
Ivanka.
What is their? And Ivanka Trump will be there talking about the future of work. So if you can get your dad elected
Like
president, you're going to have a great career ahead of you. What is Apple going to do there? Are they doing they're doing HomeKit.
They're doing HomeKit, and they're going to be one of their executives is going to be on a privacy panel.
Oh boy!
So they can tout their privacy. But the HomeKit thing is interesting because they're really, Apple has kind of really lagged behind on some of the other protocols. Google and Apple and Amazon are kind of putting their heads together to create a joint protocol for home networking and
chip,
right?
CHIP,
right.
Yeah.
But that's a long ways off, and so in the meantime, they've got to get out there and really hustle to get people to pay attention to HomeKit product.
I think one of the trends I'll be looking for, certainly 5G, and debunking 5G will be a great sport. I went into the T-Mobile store. My son's traveling to Asia, and I said, well, you need a T-Mobile phone so you can get some, free text and data internationally. So we switched him over, and I asked the guys, they were selling the 5G phones. They have the OnePlus McLaren edition, and I think they had a Samsung 5G Note 10, and very expensive plans. And I said, oh, this is great. Can I get it here? No. Can I get 5G in San Francisco? No. I said, where can I get 5G? He said, Ukiah, which is a tiny town like 80 miles north of us. That's it. And they're doing all these ads. 5G, T-Mobile's rolling out 5G everywhere. Everybody's going to get it. No, it's a lie.
Well, it's in a lot of places. We have it in Houston, and it's fairly disappointing. I've got one of the McLaren phones here.
That's a nice phone, but
it's a beautiful phone. But
battery life on 5G is bad too, right? Isn't that
yes, and it was bad on early 4G phones too. So it's just kind of the nature of the beast.
But this is the 600 megahertz 5G, right?
That's the T-Mobile 5G.
And it is about T-Mobile said that they'll get about 20% better speed. You won't get that much more.
What are you getting?
And in Houston, I'm getting you can see it's a little better, but it's not something to jump up and down about. They don't yet have the network set up so you have the lack of lag, which is supposed to be a big deal with 5G.
Yeah, and part of the reason you're getting better speed is because you're about one of 5 people that has a 5G phone.
That's right.
You wait till everybody has a 5G phone,
get in early.
Tell me. Yeah.
Right. Well, and at some points, if they get the merger with Sprint, they'll have more than just the 600 megahertz spectrum. They'll have the faster spectrum that isn't quite as intense as millimeter wave. And so they'll be in better shape. And these phones, apparently, the ones they're selling now, will work when that combination happens, if it happens. We're still waiting for the judge to rule on that.
Yeah.
But it is not, so far it is not that impressive.
Well, Houston and Ukiah, so that's good. and a corner of certain NFL stadiums, not the whole stadium, just right next to the hot dog cart. We'll see.
Well, it's better. It's better than Verizon. Verizon, you have to be outside. You have to be within sight in order to get it. And when you get it, it's like 1.7 gig. They gave me a demo in a parking lot on this suburban street in Houston, and you could see the tower up there. And they downloaded a 2-hour Netflix movie in 5 seconds.
Wow.
It was really impressive, but then, you go inside the building next to the parking lot and you can't get it. But
you can watch your Netflix movie.
Yeah.
So,
yes, once you have it downloaded.
Now you have it.
Yeah.
So here's the question. Is 5G hype, or is it kind of what LTE was when it was first announced? It's just early days.
Yeah. It's pre-hype. I feel like it's pre-hype. I mean, I was just trying to remember how they marketed LTE and even 4G and wondering whether this is always the case, whether they sort of like everybody's talking about it before it's actually a thing. And in the beginning, it's actually kind of crappy, but eventually it starts to get up to speed, quite literally, and it starts to work. But I was trying to remember that because there just seems to be so much chatter about 5G and marketing about to us, the consumers, for 5G. But it really doesn't seem like it's anywhere yet. And also there's the proof of concept, I'm sure will come, but it just doesn't seem, I don't know, it doesn't seem palpable to me, at least.
I guess the question is almost, is it LTE or is it WiMAX? Because both were highly hyped. WiMAX was hyped just like 5G is being hyped right now. It turned out to be the worst thing Sprint ever did. I remember WiMAX in Las Vegas at CES or Comdex being completely unusable. It was really what held Sprint back. So I guess that's the question: is this a real technology? There are some real problems. Of course, the problem you're talking about, Dwight, is with millimeter wave. It's such a high frequency that it can't go through walls.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not very good.
Well, and the whole the implementation strategy for 5G basically depends on having far more
4 times the sites.
Towers. Four times the sites.
Yeah.
So and good luck with that. Like, I live in an area where we have a really strong community of people who think that cell phone signals are,
killing us all.
Either the devil or they'll cause cancer.
There's a big NIMBY problem with 5G.
Yes.
A lot of people think
so
they
just
cause
getting
cancer.
Just getting towers in to get decent 4G coverage in parts of Santa Fe. Right. There's parts of downtown Santa Fe where the 4G coverage is terrible because there's it's very, very organized community resisting the deployment of more towers just for LTE.
Yeah.
Yeah, I picture it working really well in New York City, right? Like
yes.
I lived in New York City for 10 years, and like New York City, there's so much stuff going on all around you that like weird, people hacking cable and stuff like that it's like you just walk through the city, you don't notice that stuff. So I feel like I can see it working in cities and also people not really noticing it or caring that much in cities. But it totally makes sense that there are organized groups fighting this in certain communities.
So one of the interesting things about Houston is that a lot of services like this and 4G and 5G, they come here first because it's flat and dense. And so they're able to get towers in here and, there's not a lot of obstruction. But and the city of Houston has just been incredibly friendly to the carriers because they want to get it.
You have no zoning laws in Houston. You can do anything you want.
Right. Yeah. So the other thing that is happening is that Houston is the hometown for Crown Castle, which is the company that owns most of the cell towers in the United States and leases them to the carriers. And so Crown Castle works with the city of Houston to get a lot of fiber laid and to get their towers up here. And so Houston is kind of on the forefront of a lot of this, but it still doesn't mean that 5G yet has any traction or could even be called good.
Yeah. So I remembered that Apple was at last year's CES in what turned out to be a somewhat unfortunate way. They bought the side of a hotel for a big ad that says, "What happens on your iPhone stays on your iPhone." Shortly thereafter, of course, it was revealed that that's not the case.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was bad timing all around. I'll be curious to see if they do anything like that this year.
Someone actually tweeted a photo of that same building, I think last week, and was like, "Doesn't look like Apple's bought an ad." Someone tweeted that last week.
Not on a Marriott anyway. Yeah. So, but I do think security and privacy will be kind of at least tangentially one of the big topics of CES this year. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, there is that privacy.
Besides the privacy panel.
Right,
that Apple will be at.
But I don't know, I mean, it's. I think that people will say, I think you get a lot of lip service for it, but I'm not sure that there will be anything that essentially says, here is a product that enhances privacy or improves privacy. I think everybody will say, yeah, we'll be transparent about what happens with your data, but we're still going to sell it.
I think one thing, though, that did happen just a couple of days ago is going to make a big difference, which is the California privacy law, which went into effect January 1st. Basically, our version of GDPR requiring companies disclose what information they gather and giving everybody the right to have their data deleted. Of course, that's only for companies that do business in California, but so many companies are doing it, and most companies don't want to have a separate California version of their product. So I suspect this will change. This will change the conversation a little bit.
There's two things about that, though. I think you're right to the extent that it's going to be like GDPR in the sense that it will become the default for anyone who doesn't have the budget or the technical chops to segment their app or their service or whatever. You say, if I can meet these standards, then everybody gets them by default. But the other thing about it that I find is sort of interesting is that there's still 6 months before enforcement kicks in, right?
Right.
There's some weird, there's like a bunch of the regulations aren't even written yet, I think.
Interesting. And just like GDPR, there's also a pause while people see what kinds of prosecutions happen. Because are they going to go after bloggers or only Google or only Facebook? Facebook says we don't have to do anything. We're already compliant, which sounds a little self-serving. Mozilla says, well, we are going to give you a delete all the telemetry data that Mozilla collects, not personal data, but telemetry data. We're going to put that in our browser, and we're going to do it in every version because we don't want to make a California version of Mozilla. So, the other reason I think you're going to see this at CES is because I think you're going to see a lot of IoT stuff. And that is a big story, especially now because of the Ring doorbell
the Ring
coverage.
Stuff was crazy.
And I think, by the way, somewhat unfair. We've talked about that before. I don't think Ring's any worse than anybody else. Nevertheless, I think it raised the general public's awareness. If you put a camera in your house with speaker and microphone, people might be able to hack into it. And so I think that all of these IoT companies will be at great pains to say, oh, no, we're safe, right?
Yeah, one of the stories on your list today is the Wyze database.
Yeah, they got hacked.
What happened was an employee put a database of their customers' information online without securing it. It had been secured. They turned it off for what reason is not known, and then it became discoverable.
Yeah.
What's funny is my daughter gave me a Wyze camera for Christmas so that I could look at the cats in the other
just
room.
In the nick of time.
I didn't set it up until the 26th when they found it, so I didn't have an account till then. So
I think Wyze's response was exactly right on this. First of all, of course, it was an error. They weren't hacked, but somebody did publish accidentally details of 2.4 million customers. But Wyze immediately reset all the tokens so that data would no longer be useful to a bad guy trying to get into your camera. That's the right response. I think a lot of our listeners, I have Wyze cameras everywhere. They're cheap, and I think we've recommended them like crazy over the last year.
And they work well. They have a great feature set.
And you don't have to pay a monthly subscription. There's a lot of reasons to go with it. I feel like Wyze did the right thing. Wyze responded appropriately, and that's more important than just not having a breach. It's how you respond, right?
Yes, and they responded quickly.
Right.
They didn't delay with it. They were out there with it.
Well, and they had to because, unfortunately, the company that published it told Wyze at 9:21 and then published their article at 9:35. So they weren't given a whole lot of time to respond.
That piece of it was weird to me, right?
Minutes?
That is not traditional disclosure protocol.
Yeah, because that seems like way more focused on publicizing the problem than allowing the company to actually patch it.
Yes.
So, I was sort of struck by that. That seemed kind of strange, and I mean, whatever. But it just seems like usually if you're a self-respecting security person, hopefully you're actually trying to help the company improve its security before you tell everybody about it.
Yeah,
right?
Give them a chance to at least shut the database down.
Yeah.
Before you put it on Twitter. The company was 12 Security, and they wasted no time to publish it. It was December 26th, also the day after Christmas. So it wasn't. It was.
Who's picking up that? Who's answering that email?
That's right.
Yeah. I
the
think
intern's like, oh no.
We really should push for responsible disclosure from all these security companies. That just does not.
And that is, you're right. This was a really good response from a company that is big enough to have a security infrastructure
and somebody working on Boxing Day.
And they had designed the product
that's a good
properly.
Point. Yes.
So because there are literally hundreds of millions or perhaps even billions of Internet of Things products out there, many of which, especially things that are 3, 4, 5 years old, that have hardwired passwords in them. And so, if you find, like you say, you're putting a camera in your house, and so you need to be cognizant of the fact that somebody could hack into it. But if you have a hardwired password in there that can't be changed, your only recourse once a vulnerability is discovered is to take the thing out and take a hammer and just smash it into little pieces.
Yeah.
Boy, with all those IoT devices, it sounds like you might actually need a knowledge management solution to keep track of them.
Oh, he wants us to do an ad.
Can you think of a good one?
Is this
for
your
me,
job
Leo?
now? Is to say, Leo, do an ad? Is that what they've reduced you to?
Perfect transition.
They won't let me push the buttons anymore, so I have to do something.
He's reduced to saying, Leo, I think it's time to do an ad. All right. I'll do the ad. I will. When we come back, though, there are some shiny, exciting, shiny things. Not all this boring, it's security, 5G, none of that. Some shiny, exciting things to talk about at CES. We'll get to that. I do think, though, we should do a little bet on how many of the crappy Chinese gadgets in the basement of the Sands are internet connected. Because I'm guaranteeing you more than half of them, with no thought about security, will go on your Wi-Fi. So we'll be looking for that. Is this internet connected? Oh, yeah, it is. Look, your pencil can be on the internet. How exciting. Our show today brought to you by a brand new sponsor. Glad to have them, too. They have a great product called Guru. Guru, whether you're a startup or a large enterprise, Guru can help your team or company find the information they need to do their job. Sometimes you think, information is at our fingertips. It's easy, but no, it's really, the truth is you need to be able to find that information fast without searching for it. Take, for example, and this is a customer that has done really great stuff with Guru, Shopify, and their customer support. They knew they needed a solution that worked within the existing workflows of their support team so that they could get answers to questions as people called in or emailed fast and easily. Not a Google search. They needed Guru, and they turned to Guru. They use it in 60% of their support interactions. That's how valuable it is. It's everything from sales and marketing to product information, knowledge management. Another company, Boomi, a nice, cute little startup, uses Guru. They fit it into their daily workflow when Paul, who was Boomi's sales enablement leader, made it a point to load a few of their RFP responses right into Guru. His aha moment, getting emails from his reps and sales engineers saying Guru helped them answer the RFP proposal much faster. Guru is your mind on steroids. It's a powerful browser extension, and it brings in up-to-date knowledge. Of course, verified by your team's experts. That's important. That's the other problem with just a general, Google it, is you don't know what you're getting back. This is real information, valuable information, vetted information right in your workflow. Integrates with everything you use: Slack, Salesforce, Zendesk, Gmail, of course, Intercom, lots more. It uses AI to make sure you and your team are getting the tools and information you need proactively. They suggest relevant information based on what you're working on. It uses AI to help create amazing customer experiences, to help you close deals. It gives your team the confidence they need by reassuring them they're using the most up-to-date, verified information. Look at all the testimonials from all the companies that use Guru. Why aren't you using Guru? Prevent distractions, access, and create knowledge without ever leaving your screen. Go to getguru.com/twit. This is such a useful tool. Getguru.com/twit. You could try it for free. GETGURU.com/twit. Welcome, Guru, to This Week in Tech. It's great to have you. And everybody should give that a try. Getguru.com/twit. I didn't mention at the beginning of the show, but this is our first twit with the, we're doing what the major league teams do now. We sold studio naming rights to LastPass. Don't laugh. This is great. This is the Twit LastPass Studios, and I think you saw it at the beginning of the show, and we've got signage and stuff. Why not?
That's the best. That's definitely the best studio naming.
It's a perfect
example I've seen so far.
Yeah, see, it's right there behind you. It's a perfect partnership because we use LastPass. I've used it for 10 years, so we were really glad. There were other companies interested, but Herb's Tire Shop didn't get the bid. I'm sorry, we had to give it to LastPass.
Comcast customer support.
Yeah,
didn't,
there are some companies that I had to rule out. The Comcast Studios, that wasn't going to happen. No. So I'll tell you what. I know I look like a dork. Lisa and I look dorky when we're driving our Segways around town. We're 8 feet tall, riding on 2 wheels. Maybe this is the Segway of our future. I will ride on this at CES, the hover chair. It looks just like the Wall-E hover chairs.
You see, why are we doing this?
It's a
why
personal
are we doing this, Leo?
transporter pod. Actually, if you think of it as a wheelchair for people with mobility issues, that's right. That's cool, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Because one problem with the Segways, you have to stand up. That's not good for everybody. I do hope it doesn't become the Wall-E mobile.
Yeah, that's a terrible dystopian future that we don't want, right?
Well,
it doesn't have the big cup holder on the side.
It's a big goal.
I don't know. See, my first thought was Dr. Strangelove when I saw that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, or Dr. Evil. I could spin it around.
Yeah.
I already have my Dr. Evil chair. All I need to do is put 2 wheels on it with my cat.
What about who was that? Dr. Claw? Is that who that was?
It's a reboot of Dr. Strangelove and Dr. Evil.
Dr. Strangelove, yeah. So that'll be something to look for at CES, I guess.
Is there a toilet in it, is my question.
Oh, we need at least a catheter. Yeah. Oh, my God. I will be looking at TVs. LG is going to have 8K TVs, so will Samsung. Look at this new Samsung TV. There's no bezel. I mean, if there is, it's so small you could barely see it. This will also be their 8K.
The screen actually only takes up 99% of the
front. There's this little line at the bottom.
Tiny
see, that's 1%. That little teeny one line.
More of a seam than a bezel.
It's more of a...
it is wafer thin.
Wafer thin seam. No more of a seam than a bezel. It is QLED 8K. LG will also be showing OLED 8K. And there will also be, and I think this is actually the new TV technology that will be the most interesting. We're going to get Scott Wilkinson to show us the micro LED. What's cool about micro LED, and it was shown last year at CES, is you can assemble a TV from smaller parts. So you can make it as big as you want just by clicking in micro LED sections.
Or any shape you want it.
Yeah.
Right.
Although,
so the thing about 8K TV, and nobody that I have seen has talked in detail about this, is data caps. I mean, if you're talking 4K sucks up data quickly, 8K is going to be even worse. How do people like Comcast, who was denied your studio naming rights, going to deal with this?
I agree with you. I feel like Comcast saw this coming, which is why they put 1 terabyte limits on my bandwidth. I have a 1.
But that's nothing. That's nothing if you have 8K.
And so the idea is you put the bandwidth cap on now. When people say, "Oh, that's fine because my streaming of Netflix is only 25 megabits," I can easily get in under the 1 terabyte. And then the minute you go to 8K, you're absolutely right, Dwight. There are no 8K physical media players. And frankly, I think there probably won't be, right? Isn't physical media like history? It's going to be streaming. You'll need, if you need right now for 4K, Netflix says 25 megabits. You'll need 100 megabits, 4 times more, 100 megabits for 8K, unless they have some super duper compression.
Which is the average in the U.S. for broadband.
That's your whole.
About 105 megabits.
Yeah, that's at home. I get 89. I wouldn't even be able to watch it.
So
not to mention,
so you can look forward to seeing those buffering messages again. It'll be. I mean, the other thing about 8K technology is that it is literally beyond the physical limits of the human eye to discern those differences. I appreciate that you can indeed tell the difference between full HD and 4K, but I've looked at 4K versus 8K, and I don't. I don't think you can really see enough of a difference to justify the energy usage, the manufacturing differences, and especially the bandwidth.
Right. Somebody, I think it was Scott Wilkinson, our home theater guy, said, well, with 4K, it's more than just clarity. Of course, HDR helps too. But he also says there's a certain almost ineffable quality. It's not just that you don't see the pixels. It just feels more real, more spatial. Is that airy-fairy? Is that...
Well, this sounds to me like the pitches that people used to make for gold audio cables.
Yep.
And for you need the gold audio cables because those bits could be dropping out.
You're definitely going to need gold HDMI cables for this. I mean, that you do have to. By the way, the new HDMI standard 2.1 for this, which means you're going to have to upgrade your cables because there's so much data coming down the cable, it won't be handled by the old HDMI cables.
It could be worse, though. I mean, I think one of the biggest embarrassments, in my estimation, of the last since you've been, Leo, to CES was the year that they pushed 3D TVs so hard.
Oh, what a flop that was!
Yeah, huge flop, right? So okay, maybe 4K and 8K you can't really tell, but at the very least, they're not trying to sell something to you that's actually terrible.
Let me tell you about quadraphonic audio.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Wow. No, I mean, it's so funny how people were so excited about that at the time. Then you just go back, we were talking about the Beatles before, right? And you listen to those Beatles recordings and you're like, this is all you need. You don't need a bunch of extra channels. It's wild.
Did you have Ed Bott, the oldest person on the panel by about a minute? Did you have one of those joysticks that lets you send the music around the room in your quadraphonic sound?
I did not. I did not have one of those. I did have.
How did you survive?
I had original Pioneer Laserdisc players.
Oh.
And so
I did too.
That.
I loved my Laserdisc players.
Oh, and the discs. I was thinking about it the other day.
Shiny discs.
Yeah.
Good I said something. Too. Then you guys didn't dispute this, but so let me get your thoughts. Is physical media dead? Is somebody going to make an 8K ultra HD player, or is that just nuts?
It's dead.
We don't see even a lot of UHD discs, do we?
No.
Everybody's going to stream.
I mean, you still see, Redbox is still there. Redbox.
I know. I saw one at the 7-Eleven.
Outside of every CVS, right. So there are people who use it, but I think that
Lisa,
advances.
Look, we're in Reno. We can rent movies again.
but the people who use Redbox are not using it for higher quality, right?
No.
No.
Right.
No.
So
and Redbox,
you do have an enthusiast community that is going to continue to support Blu-ray and its descendants in the same way that there are now vinyl enthusiasts.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the same people, I think. And they also have a joystick on their quadraphonic sound.
But I don't think there'll be a new format to support that. I don't think there'll be a new.
They would need a new format.
Right.
Maybe Blu-ray's good enough. I mean, for a video file, and I have to confess, I bought for the movies I really love, that I really wanted. Barry Lyndon. I bought the UHD.
Oh, that's a great movie.
Because every frame in that, it's a boring movie.
Painting.
But every frame of it is a painting. Kubrick literally tried to do that, and so you want to see it as best you can.
Yeah.
But those movies are few and far between, I think.
Yeah, but I think that's where you're going to end up, though, is that high definition media is going to be an enthusiast market, and it will always be, there will always be something there for enthusiasts. And they came up with upscaling to make older videos look better on high resolution, on the first generation high resolution video displays. So you can get certain things like that. But to your larger point, physical media is essentially dead.
But maybe 8K will bring it back because nobody's going to have the bandwidth to watch this stuff. The Olympics in this summer in Tokyo, NHK has mandated will be shot in 8K, even though that'll be the first. This happened I remember with HD even, that the first HD sets. Well, you could get if you were in Japan, you could watch it, and I remember we got an HD plasma display in 1998. It was 50 inches or 55 inches at Tech TV. It cost $10,000. And it had a logo burn into it in about 3 days. They were awful. They just basically turned yellow after 5 years. So that was a good purchase. It wasn't my money, thank God. It was Paul Allen's money. But there is 3D though is back. Get ready for this. Another thing we're going to see at CES.
Oh no!
I know. So every TV manufacturer stopped making 3D. There still are 3D movies, but the problem with all 3D up to now is you had to wear glasses. In the 50s, it was the red-green paper glasses. But, if you go to a 3D movie today, you're wearing those real 3D glasses that are polarized, or you're wearing active shutter glasses at the IMAX. This is what they call Lightfield 3D. I think it's going to be a gimmick, but I'm going to go see it. We're going to try to get a demo. The idea is you don't have to wear glasses.
Is this like the chess game from Star Wars?
Yes.
Is that what we're talking about here?
Yes, essentially.
I dig that. I'm into
you have to look at there's not a screen. It's not projected on a screen. It's direct view. So you have to look at what they call a micro lens array, which is 180 by 180, half a millimeter hogels. I don't know what a hogel is. It's the new Pixel is a hogel. You heard it here first. And it creates a light field. So that's how the real world lighting works is light sources bounce off of things you're looking at, and they bounce in every direction so that wherever you are, you can see the thing. This supposedly will give you 3D by you looking at this micro lens. And what I'm not clear is it, I guess it's going to be like the Star Wars chess game or Princess Leia. It'll appear above. I'm not sure the micro lens.
It's like watching a play. It'd be like watching the characters.
Yeah, that's the stage.
But how big is it? How big is the stage?
Not big.
What are you looking at exactly?
It's not big. It's what did I say? It's 180 by 180. It's 90 millimeters by 90 millimeters. It's tiny. But there it is. It's a little box. Here,
it's like the first TVs.
Yeah.
Remember the first little black and white TVs, right?
Yeah, I mean this is early days.
Right.
Oh God, it's not even in color.
It's green like Tank. Playing Tank again.
All right. So it is
Battle Tank.
That looks like those magic viewfinder things.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. You're gonna have Jesus in there and his eyes are gonna follow you everywhere you go.
Yeah, no.
It needs a killer app.
Needs a killer app.
This looks similar in concept to what the original HoloLens experience was like.
Oh.
Yeah.
A very small
a mail slot that you were looking through.
Yeah, it was very small viewing window that you had available for it. But
so that's a Favi 3D. I guess that's how you pronounce it. But there are other companies doing it. Here's Raytrix. Anyway, there'll be three companies showing their products at CES this week. So I'll look for it. We'll see. Maybe it is like the early days of television. Maybe in 100 years, we'll all be dead.
Maybe.
True story.
But our great grandkids will be enjoying 3D TV without glasses. Okay.
Sitting in their Segway chair.
Yeah, it's Wall-E. We're getting there. I've always held that really everything that happens is because somebody as a kid read sci-fi and they said, oh, I want to make that happen. And then 30 years later, they're trying to invent it. So
I got to interview Buzz Aldrin once, and he said he didn't call science fiction. He called it future prediction.
Yeah.
Right.
But for Buzz Aldrin, it was like Tom Swift he was reading. It was like a long time ago. All right, that's it for CES. Here's CNET's 6 things that will dominate. These are the categories that we'll almost certainly be talking about. Although part of the fun of CES is getting there and saying, oh, it's not this at all, it's that. Services, food delivery, meal kits, meditation, Uber, Lyft, all of that stuff. Ambient computing, that's really been a trend going on for decades, which is the movement of the computer, the CPU from right in front of you to the edge.
Didn't they used to call it contextual computing? Like, aren't they just sort of giving a new name to a thing that,
Ambient makes more sense because it's really these voice assistants too, right? You're talking to your house and the house responds.
So in 1999, I did, as every other newspaper did, a story on what was coming in the looming 21st century. And I went to MIT, and they were working on this where you walk into a room and the wall becomes a monitor and you talk to your desk, and they had all these concepts at the time. And the guy who was working on the voice part of it, and they had created this voice assistant that's very similar to the Google call-up assistant now, where you would call them and essentially you could book a flight over the phone. And the guy had got the idea for doing this because as a kid he had watched 2001: A Space Odyssey and wanted to make HAL. And the whole ubiquitous computing thing comes from
HAL 9000.
Science fiction.
Sure.
Right. From Scotty walking into the engineering room and saying, "Computer."
Right.
That's where it all comes from.
Right. That makes perfect sense. CNET points out that about half of Tech West, which is the big innovation pavilion, will be taken up with health, fitness, and wellness apps. And, not only smart bands, but also things like the Peloton bike and treadmill. And there's now fitness screens you can hang on your wall and you box against them and all sorts of things. They also say privacy and security, as we said, will be something that will be, at least there'll be lip service paid to. I don't know if they'll do anything about it. And then streaming and cord cutting. 2 of the 8 keynotes are from streamers Quibi, which is the very poorly named Meg Whitman and Katzenberg's streaming TV play, and NBC's Peacock both have keynotes. And then 5G will be number 6. And, of course, we'll see a lot of 5G.
The health stuff is really interesting to me because I feel like in a more cynical way, that seems to be a lasting theme of a lot of the technology that, we've seen sort of arise over the past 5 years and actually seem to prove out in terms of its use. I mean, we've heard so many stories of people's fitness trackers, saving them, when they've noticed that, or their child has noticed that their heartbeat is off or something like that.
Grandpa, are you dead? Grandpa,
I've fallen and I can't get up. Yeah.
No, I mean the Apple Watch is the clearly the winner so far. I mean, even Fitbit struggled. Now Google owns them. This is and yet it's still a little ways away from being a really serious health device. Yet I love it. I wear it. Those EKGs. Yeah, I mean there are lots of kind of anecdotal tales of people's lives being saved.
But I just think I guess what I'm saying is that the power of the data that these companies are collecting on all of us. At least that's one area that's very scary, but also I can see the use for it. There's a lot of potential for it. Yeah.
And I have a Peloton at home. I love it. I have a lot of connected health stuff. It hasn't made me much more healthy. But there's always hope. That's what a lot of this stuff is like the first TV. You know, we're early days yet. Someday, all of this will change and life will be beautiful. Let's take a little break. Ben Brock Johnson is here from WBUR. Great to have. What are you working on these days, Ben? Anything you want to plug?
Oh, man. So I'm still making my show, Endless Thread, a weekly show about stories, the best stories that we find on Reddit.
You can never stop that because it's endless.
It really is endless.
A show you can never end.
But no, it's been a lot of fun. We're actually working on an upcoming series about the Canadian version of MK Ultra, if you're familiar with that story.
Yeah.
So there's a really
men who stare at goats.
Oh yeah. There's a really interesting story in Canada happening about this.
Cool.
That is I think going to be great and going to come out in a couple of months. But every week we find something new and crazy, and Reddit always serves up something new and crazy. So check it out.
Is there free acid in Canada? Are they giving out acid? Is that how it works? Or
oh man, I don't know, but they like this the Allen Institute, which is in Montreal and has a long history there. The doctor that was there in I think about the 50s to the 70s he was knocking people out. He was inducing a coma in people who had everything from like serious mental illness to temporary postpartum depression. And he was knocking them out for a month, putting them in a coma for a month, and then waking them up and hitting them with like insane doses of acid, strapping them down into chairs and playing loudspeakers at them.
They forgot their troubles on the bright side.
Yeah, exactly. They were all cured immediately.
Maybe some side effects long term, but they're happy
insane.
now.
Yeah.
Ed Bott is also here. He's the Ed Bott Report guy, and always, I love all the articles you write about. I was just saying how we've been sharing your article about upgrading to Windows 10 for free. It's still possible if you have Windows 7, and certainly something you should consider, given that in 9 days, the last patch Tuesday for Windows 7. I also loved this article. The PC was supposed to die a decade ago. In 2010, the PC was declared dead. It's not dead yet. I'm not dead yet. What else? Anything else you want to talk about, Ed, that you're working on?
I'm just getting ready to move to Canada and microdose.
I don't mind the acid. It's the month-long coma I'm not, I'm a little nervous about. But what the hell?
I think in 2020, a month-long coma here and there might actually
be good.
I'm okay with that.
You wake up, go, is he still president? He is? Put me out!
just wake up in time for the election.
Yeah.
So you can
Maybe
vote.
not. Vote and then go back to sleep.
Go back to bed.
I am not to get political, but I'm increasingly of the opinion that this is it. It's 4 more years, folks.
Did you see the tweet today?
What's interesting, in the first 3 years of President Trump's presidency, everything he said on Twitter was deeply analyzed, publicized, written about, headlines in newspaper. I noticed they don't do that so much anymore. What did he say today?
He said essentially that this tweet is my official letting Congress know that if Iran strikes at the U.S., we will strike back tenfold, essentially.
Yeah.
I'm
officially tweeting that. What happened?
Yeah, forget the War Act. This is how we're doing it now.
The last 3 years, Twitter has become this this will serve as notification. What? It's a tweet. It's a tweet. When did Twitter become the official channel of government?
Well, the House Foreign Affairs Committee responded to him
on Twitter.
Oh
God.
Oh my
saying,
God.
And it's at House Foreign if you want to look that one up.
I want the coma now. Give me the coma now.
Yeah. If you want to, it's at House Foreign. And they basically said, no, I'm sorry, you can't do that.
You can't tweet a declaration.
This media post will serve as a reminder that war powers reside in the Congress under the United States Constitution.
Oh, no, they
don't.
And
that you should read the War Powers Act and that you are not a dictator. That was from the United States House of Representatives.
Where did
That's spicy.
Great. We're having a Twitter war to get ready for the real war.
Article 1 and Article 2 are playing out on
Twitter.
I'm just waiting for the Supreme Court
to start issuing tweets.
Maybe the Supreme Court should step in on Snapchat.
Writing these long opinions just takes so much time. 280 characters is plenty. It's all you need.
It's a thread. One of 5,363.
I'm mad because I was doing This Week in Google. Jeff Jarvis, there was Jack Dorsey tweeted, and he put a little spool of thread at the end. And Jeff Jarvis said, "Oh, everyone knows that means this is a thread." I said, I've never seen that. Is that me, or am I missing something? Or do you put a spool of thread at the...
It's not you.
Okay.
Not you.
I didn't think.
Not you.
I didn't think. Maybe Jack's trying to make that the new protocol.
Jack's microdosing again.
I think
That's right.
Jack just woke up
been
from a
microdosing.
month-long vacation. That's what we're calling it.
Use your words, Jack.
Tech Burger Man, Mr. Dwight Silverman. Always a thrill to have you on at the HoustonChronicle.com/techburger. You're also doing a newsletter now. How's that going?
Yeah. Oh, it's great. The newsletter is one of the most popular ones at the Chronicle. It is, in fact, we got tomorrow's edition is I have a Q&A with Ed about the Windows 7 end of life.
Oh, great.
And so, it'll be, you can sign up at HoustonChronicle.com/release notes, which is the name of it. And we'll have, Ed did a great job, lots of good insight, and cleared up a lot of misconceptions for me. And so this will drop tomorrow. And what I'm doing with release notes is I'm doing original content there first. In a couple of days, It'll be on the web, and then it'll be in print.
Perfect.
So we're kind of starting with experimenting with using the newsletter as the primary delivery for a lot of stuff. I like that.
So I don't want to scoop you, and everybody should subscribe and read release notes tomorrow. But let me just ask Ed real quickly, because I've been telling everybody, you could just go for free and upgrade Windows 7 to 10, and it activates, right? It's still the case?
That is still the case, assuming that you have a properly activated a PC running a properly activated copy of Windows 7, Windows 8, or Windows 8.1. You go to the Windows 10 download site, you download the installer, you click the Upgrade Me Now, and abracadabra, alakazam, reboot, and you have a properly activated digital license for Windows 10.
It does seem like Microsoft's walking back a little bit the idea that January 14th is the end of life, because they have announced now that Security Essentials are going to continue to get updated, their antivirus.
Well, they have to, because they're providing 3 years. They're providing security updates for 3 years for people who pay extra.
A lot
for them.
Yeah.
And it's an increasing amount every year.
It's for enterprise, and it doubles every year. It's not for you and me. It's for enterprise.
You could if you wanted to, but you should read Dwight's newsletter to catch the details on
that. Find out how much that's going to set you back. All right. Nice. Well, it's great to have all three of you. I really like doing the show with the more experienced members of our tech journalist community, because we've all...
And me.
And then you, and then Ben. But no, it's fun because there's a little gray hair here, Ben. I'm sorry, you're such a ute.
I got some in there.
Yeah, but that perspective is valuable a lot of times.
There's context.
There's context.
We can provide context.
Yeah, and I always enjoy it.
Yeah,
maybe because
how quickly we all forget.
I'm an old timer. What is this Snapchat you guys are talking about? Go ahead.
Everybody who's a Webby Award-winning podcaster, raise your hand. See?
Ben and I had a race, a battle between his old show.
But we both got one.
You got the I got the People's Choice, and you got the runners.
It's the other way around.
You got the participation
I got the
award.
boring one, and you got the real one. I got the two fake bots voting online one, and you got the critically acclaimed one.
Well, yeah, a lot of good. That spring is doing me, I'll tell you. The award is a spring. I don't know if that means you're sinking or you're bouncing. Anyway. Our show today brought to you by, this is actually talking about health. This is a really good sponsor, Health IQ. It's a life insurance agency that specializes in helping healthy people get insurance. Turns out every insurance company, all the big insurance companies, offer special deals for people who are healthy, who get a minimum of 8 hours sleep, for example, or eat right, or exercise 4 or more times a week. The problem is getting those big companies to give you those benefits. They don't want to. You need a life insurance agency to step in. Health IQ. They use science and data, and they will get you lower life insurance rates for people who are health aware, health conscious, who take care of themselves. And I know that's you. You can get $1 million of insurance as little as $36 a month. The reason is healthy people subsidize the unhealthy people, right? It's not a conspiracy. It's actuarial science. It's statistics. You might be healthy. The key is, does your health insurance company know? For instance, a great example is Aunt Pruitt, who is very healthy. He lifts. He's buff. But because he is so strong and has such big muscles, his body mass index is through the roof. And a health insurance company is just going to look at that number and say, well, you must be obese. He's not. He has very little body fat. So Health IQ steps in and says, no, you don't understand. That number is not the number to look at. This is the number to look at, and gets him that great rate. If you're a runner, if you're a cyclist, you're into CrossFit, you're an athlete, if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, you're working hard to preserve your good health, you should get better life insurance rates. Physically active people have significantly lower risks for heart disease, cancer, diabetes. Health IQ is basically to say they're a life insurance agency is not enough. They're a concierge service. They give you white glove service. They'll walk you through the entire process. They will have their policies are underwritten by all of the top 30 insurance companies. So it's, they will take you to the right insurance company, the one that's going to give you the deal. And these are savings, by the way, you can't get on your own. They're exclusive to Health IQ. These companies have said to Health IQ, yeah, find us those healthy people. We want those healthy people. You got to qualify to get the special rate. So here's how it starts. You go to healthiq.com/twit and take their proprietary Health IQ quiz. It's not a quiz about your health. It's a quiz about your knowledge, how much you know about good health. They've put this together with a team of the nation's leading medical, health, and fitness experts. Depending on your score, as well as other qualifying factors. For instance, they said, can we get the health data from your phone or your watch? And I said, yes. That's when they can get you up to 41% off your life insurance premiums compared to other providers. Now, there's no commitment. You're going to learn everything you need to know about the opportunities to be rewarded because you live healthy. Let them help you toward getting the life insurance you deserve. Go to healthiq.com/twit. Take the quiz. See if you qualify. Once you complete the quiz, you'll give them your phone number. Your expert, your guy, your concierge will call you and walk you through the process and help you save a ton of money. It was a great experience. I really enjoyed it. healthiq.com/twit. Somebody sent me an email, said, but life insurance companies rely on the healthy people to support the sick ones. We're not taking you out of the insurance pool. We're just making sure you get the appropriate rate. You're still in the insurance pool. This is a really good company. healthiq.com/twit. We thank them for their support of This Week in Tech. We thank you for supporting This Week in Tech by using that special address, healthiq.com/twit. Wednesday was Public Domain Day 2020. We've started to celebrate this. The first of the year is when the copyright for a lot of stuff it goes public domain, including Rhapsody in Blue by George Gershwin, silent films by Buster Keaton and Harold Lloyd, Thomas Mann's The Magic Mountain, E.M. Forster's Passage to India, the A.A. Milne's When We Were Very Young. They were supposed to go into the public domain in the year 2000. The normal copyright term used to be 75 years. That was until Walt Disney Company said, well, wait a minute. Mickey Mouse is going to go in the public domain. So Congress extended that to 95 years. They somehow neglected to do that this time around. So this is the second year in a row that stuff that is 95 years or more old will go into the public domain. Works from 1924 will enter the public domain. I have entered the public domain as of Wednesday, and there's a lot of it. Dante's Inferno, which is a movie. Obviously, the book was a long time been in the public domain. Some really interesting stuff. This is the Duke Law School, Center for Study of the Public Domain. And they mention this, and I mention it because it's really important to understand that while copyright is good, it's also good if works enter the public domain so people can remix them, can build upon them. Disney itself, almost all of its great movies were based on public domain fairy tales. And then they pulled up the ladder behind them and said, but you can't do anything with it. So I think this is good to know. And Rhapsody in Blue, we should play that just to celebrate one of my favorite works of art. Of course, no performance because those are copyrighted by the performers. But you can now play it if your little student band wants to play it. You can play it without paying any royalties. Let's see what else. The Traced Act also went into law. A lot of things happened at the beginning of the year. I am wondering how much this will change things, but I am glad they passed it. It is a bill to make it harder for robocallers to continue their practice. Chuck Schumer tweeted that last year there were 48 billion robocalls, and this Traced Act is a bipartisan bill that was signed by President Trump into law on, I think it went into law January 1st. It will do a few things, extend the FCC statute of limitations, help protect consumers with FCC rulemaking, robocall enforcement. FCC has been, Ajit Pai's been on record saying, I hate those robocalls, but has done very little about it. Requires adoption of the stir and shaken martini framework, which I love the name. It has nothing to do with James Bond. The stir and shaken is authentication protocols. One end is stir, one end is shaken, that will let phone companies finally say, oh, that's an actual phone number, not a spoofed number. That's really important. I don't know about you, but I get almost all my robocalls come from my neighbors. Not only in the same area code, but in the same exchange.
Robocalls are, I feel like, a national emergency.
Yeah.
It's insane how the jump in robocalls in the past 5 years. And like, this was the first year, and I worry about this all the time. I was glad to see this story because I worry about this all the time for my parents.
Oh, God, because they're victims, right? It's just these are all scams almost.
All scams.
Yeah.
And I got taken in the last year. I started to get taken in by one. I got the one where I was called by somebody claiming to be like a cop for the IRS. And he said, 5 years ago, you didn't pay this tax.
You know, the funny thing is this IRS cop had an Indian accent.
Well, it was so crazy. It came from I used to live in New York City, and it came from New York City.
Yeah, of course it did.
And it was very similar, of course, to one of my good friends' numbers.
Yep.
And this guy, he literally said to me, walk yourself to the nearest police station.
Oh my God.
And
turn yourself in.
Surrender yourself.
Yeah.
And he was so aggressive, and I was so taken off guard that I was immediately, for the first 15 minutes, I was taken in by this thing because I was like, yeah, I had a weird tax guy a few years ago. This is weird. And I couldn't believe that it happened to me and that I started to get taken in by it. Because I think of myself as relatively savvy when it comes to this stuff. But this guy was so aggressive that
what was the scam, though? I mean, if you walked out of the police station, he doesn't make money. Did he offer you a way out?
No, that was a total bluff, right? The way out was he was doing that. He basically, as soon as I picked up the phone,
send me some Bitcoin and we can let you off the hook.
Essentially, that's what it was. They were trying to get me to give them
a credit card number.
Information.
Yeah.
Right.
But it was truly scary to me. And when it happened, and I was like on my way to get a cab.
And you're a knowledgeable person. Imagine your grandparents or people who are less sophisticated.
Yeah. It's really scary. It's scary, the number. I mean, I was freaked out and like busy and trying to catch a cab, and it like I almost got suckered in. I'm just above an idiot.
That's when you're vulnerable. The whole idea is to do that, is to play on your emotions, to play on your fear, and get you to act without thinking.
Right. Yeah. And this happened. So, I mean, this is happening. I mean, I would say like 60% of the phone calls I get are BS.
There is a nice feature in iOS 13, which everybody should turn on, and I have this on. If the person calling you is not in your contacts, send them direct to email.
Or voicemail.
Voicemail. Not email, voicemail. And that has immediately stopped all the robocalls. And the thing is, I know they're all robocalls because of none of the voicemails,
they hang up.
Yeah. So if you want to call me and I don't know you, you better leave a message. They don't call you back. That seems to be a good system. Stir and shaking will at least prevent phone number spoofing, which is very easy to do. That's why you get all these neighbors spoofing. It's also illegal, but most of these people are offshore. By the way, stir and shaken, one of the points of this bill is carriers cannot charge for it. And in return, they're shielded from liability for reasonable mistakes. I think that's fair. This is the big one. The Attorney General is going to convene an intra-agency task force. Okay, maybe that's not the big one.
We got a task force. Look at it.
So if most of these calls come from offshore, what's the enforcement?
Well, that's
how
the
can
problem,
they enforce
that?
There is a precedent for this.
Canada took down an Indian call center, didn't they?
Right. The Indian call centers, Microsoft has been fairly effective at getting the Indian government to raid the call centers that have been responsible for the tech support scams. And so they've really, really, really cut down on that particular
I have
variant.
to say, though, it bothers me that we have to rely on Microsoft to fix this, right? I mean, it's in their interest. This is a Canadian government prosecution. They got the police commissioner in New Delhi. This is the statement. They shut down the swanky international scam call center targeting Canadian citizens. I don't know maybe I don't know what's swanky. Maybe that's the brand name. I don't know. But they did shut it down.
What they mean is it was a sophisticated operation, not just not just three guys.
It wasn't a dump. I get it. It wasn't a sweatshop.
Herman Miller chairs.
Yeah. Well, in fact, I think we've heard that in many cases these are actual tech support centers, and then they moonlight at night. Yeah.
In the same way that a lot of suppliers for mobile devices, when the official assembly line shuts off, they start manufacturing knockoffs for other people. But this particular problem with the robocalls seems very similar to the problem with email spam, which certainly hasn't been solved, but it has gone from, email spam was an absolute crisis 10 years ago, 8 years ago, and it is certainly manageable now.
One thing, though, that has happened both with spam and robocalls is these scammers modify their tactics and technologies to accommodate the prosecutions. So they do different things. Maybe you're not going to get, hello, this is Windows. Send me $100. I'll fix your computer. You may not get that anymore, but you're going to get something else. I keep getting this person named Elizabeth Warren asking me for money. I don't know.
There's another guy. There's a Bernie Sanders guy who will call up. You're going to get.
By the way,
get them all.
This is the other problem with prosecuting robocalls is they're also widely used by politicians raising money.
Who have an exemption from a lot of this.
It's First Amendment. That's right.
Right.
So
the number of texts I get from local politicians is really not getting me psyched for 2020.
I actually had to say stop. And fortunately, they do stop.
Yeah.
If you say just stop, that is like a.
I got a.
Technically, that turns it off.
That's
some
a good
cases,
keyword.
Yeah. That's how you know it's not a scammer. If you can actually say stop, please, and they stop. Well, then they're not a scammer. I tell
them that I will not. You sending me that means I will definitely not vote for your candidate, and then I say stop.
Oh, that's harsh. Wow.
I am the harshest.
You're harsh. I did at one point get a less than fresh phone number when I was trying out a service. It was a number, I think I've told this story before, apparently of a guy who had gone on the lam, because I kept getting text messages saying, your student loans are due. Your student loans are due. But I also saw he obviously was a Trump voter, because I saw how aggressive the fundraising is on that side. And man, he would get a text or two every single day saying, we can double your donation if you do it right now. We've got to get Adam Schiff out of office. We got to, it was very aggressive. So yeah, politicians are absolutely using this, and I think using it very effectively.
Did you do that thing where you sent them 2 cents and ask them for a brick to build the wall so that you're actually taking money from them?
Oh,
does
that work?
That was like a thing for a second, they were like, someone was advertising like bricks for the wall.
I'll take a brick.
Which is also, it's also funny thinking about Pink Floyd, but but people were like getting them to mail them the bricks so that they would lose money on the return postage.
Get ready, because we're going to be, for the next year, inundated by political solicitations. That's not going to help the robocall problem at all. There was another story that had to do with the election. Oh, did you see the 100,000 document dump from Cambridge Analytica? This was a story in The Guardian today. Fresh Cambridge Analytica leak. You want to be scared? Shows global manipulation is out of control. Brittany Kaiser was director of program development at Cambridge Analytica. She has leaked out tens of thousands of documents, emails, and so forth, basically showing, now Cambridge Analytica is gone, but they had plans they were working in 68 different countries at what The Guardian called an industrial scale to manipulate elections. Not just in the U.S., not just in Britain, but in Kenya, in Brazil, all over the world, very aggressively. And while Cambridge Analytica is gone, you have to think that this is probably a big business right now, and that others are doing this. That we have, in effect, weaponized social media to the point where it can be used to manipulate like crazy.
This is one of the things oh, sorry, go ahead.
You first, Ben, and then.
I was just going to say, this is one of the things, this is one of the tech stories that continues to keep me up at night more than any other tech story. It's very scary to think about all of the revelations about Cambridge Analytica, and then realize that it's a Hydra situation. You cut off one head, you get 9 more or whatever.
The Guardian quotes Emma Bryant, who studies propaganda at Bard College in New York. She said, the documents reveal a much clearer idea of what actually happened in 2016, which has a huge bearing on what will happen in 2020. It's the same people involved who we know are building on these same techniques. There's evidence of really quite disturbing experiments on American voters, manipulating them with fear-based messaging, targeting the most vulnerable, that seems to be continuing. This is an entire global industry that's out of control. But what these documents do is lay out what's happening with just one company.
And you don't even know what the solution is, right? I mean, this is one of those things that I look at it and I'm like...
Right? Facebook said, we're not going to fact check this stuff.
Yeah.
Twitter says we're not going to take political ads, but that's not what the problem is. It's not just ads. It's as soon as we bombed Soleimani, there were thousands of pro-Iranian bots on Twitter starting to spread pro-Iranian propaganda on Twitter immediately.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not surprised, but everybody can weaponize this. And I think the important thing is to have a free and fair election, to have the issues discussed and have people make choices based on facts. I'm not here to support one candidate or another, but we should have free and fair elections, and we shouldn't have people voting because they were lied to on social media.
So the big thing in the Cambridge Analytica techniques, and there's a great deal of debate and a number of very loud and opinionated people in Silicon Valley who think that Cambridge Analytica was a complete scam, total fraud, and that they didn't do anything there. I think they were scamming, or they were over-promising a lot of the things that they could do, but they were certainly capable of doing some very bad things. And the thing that is most disturbing to me about the technique that they're using, which other people can and do use, is the micro-targeting. And the problem with micro-targeting is that you can aggregate data from Facebook, from online activities. You can integrate it with real-world activities. And then you identify people, and then you start sending messages to a group that may be as small as, there's 20 people in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, that you want to discourage from voting because they'll vote for your opponent. And the trouble with micro-targeting is that it goes so far below the radar. I mean, there isn't even any radar.
Right.
And you have no way of even knowing that these things are happening.
Is Facebook? I thought Facebook was at least putting a database out of all of the ads and who paid for it and all that, or is that not the case?
Well, that's for they have a database, but it's
just
not
for
complete.
Ads. It's just for purchased ads.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's just for purchased ads.
Right.
The micro-targeting, you can do much more interesting things with, including things that don't appear to be political ads.
Right.
And that there was another thing that happened today, though, that I wanted to bring up here. I found this data dump was really interesting. There was another data dump today. This guy, Thomas, is his name Thomas Hofeller? Thomas Hofeller, who died last August, and his daughter had the password to his computer and discovered that he was the mastermind behind a big data scheme that they were using to to gerrymander.
Yeah, this guy was the guy who he died in August, who wanted to add the citizenship question to the census, which the court.
And he had done a bunch of other things. So his daughter dumped the entire contents of his hard drive on the internet today.
Oh my God!
She said, "Have at it."
I can only imagine. Oh, I can only imagine.
And I took this literally happened about an hour before we went on air today. So I took a few minutes to look at some of this stuff, and he
was really the master of voter suppression, wasn't he? Not just gerrymandering, but just the idea of suppressing votes that voters you don't want to go to the polls.
This is the ultimate okay boomer move right here.
Yeah. Apparently, it says in the New York Times article from May, when this first came out, she's his estranged daughter. So don't give your estranged daughter the password to your hard drive, kids.
But that's all out there, so
I expect to see a lot more.
Crowdsource away, world.
That's a new thing, right? That's what happened with WikiLeaks. Just dump it all and let people comb through it. And Reddit will have something to say about it in about an hour.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
I bet.
Yeah, I've got it on another. I have the link here, but it's like Hofeller Files.org or something like that.
Okay.
I shouldn't Hofeller data dump. Let's see what.
I honestly think that if we, especially in politics, when you see the sausage being made and it's on both sides, it's not a pleasant sight.
It's bloody.
It's a bloody battle. Not to diminish what they're up to, but I feel like what happened to just let's do the right thing for the country, not.
Well, I'm going to push back. I'm going to push back a little bit on the both sides thing there, though, because this was in these data files is lots of stuff talking about how can we get around the voter the Voter Act,
Voting Rights Act.
The
Voting Rights Act.
Well, they don't have to get around it anymore. Guess what?
It's been gutted.
Yeah.
By the way, she put it on Google Docs.
Yes.
Love it.
So you can browse through it at your heart's content. It's a big Google Drive data dump. Wow.
I hope she doesn't give everyone edit access.
Oops.
Yeah, please.
View and comment only, please.
View and comment only. Well, I'll give you, okay, this is a little bit of the other sideism. Congress made a deal with TurboTax for the last decade that they would hide any free filing stuff because TurboTax makes its money getting people to pay to do their taxes. The good news is this week the IRS reformed the free file program and dropped the agreement not to compete with TurboTax. This actually was going on for 2 decades.
Right, and it was ProPublica
that discovered this. Yes.
That broke this story and really just dug into this one and wouldn't let go. And it was amazing work that they did.
So really, the story is really about the power that money has to corrupt our politicians. As long as we have kind of a political system where you have to raise money constantly to get elected, you're going to have stories like this. I'm sure that it wasn't a hard thing for Intuit to go to members of Congress and say, it would be nice if you would tell people there is no way to do taxes for free. In many countries, by the way, the government will do your taxes for you. You could do this. Where was it? Was it Sweden, I think, where they send you a postcard and say, we think you owe this much. Is that okay? and you say,
is that okay?
Is that okay? You say, yeah. And you send it back and you're done. We don't
say,
have we don't have to have this complicated system. Under the new rules, companies will have to standardize the naming conventions of their free file version. What TurboTax was doing was actually hiding from spiders, from search engines, the free services, the free products. So now they have to name it, appropriately. They have to make sure the search engines can find it, and the IRS can now tell people. That was the big deal. That they can now tell people. Intuit said in their blog post, we strongly support these changes to the free file program and associated free filing offers because they increase the focus on the taxpayer experience.
Does Google play a role in this? That's open question. I'm just asking.
No, because I think they're using things, like the robots.txt file to say.
They had actively hidden it from Google searches.
Yeah. Google wasn't spidering those things.
If you haven't read the the original ProPublica reporting, as Ed said, it was masterful.
Yeah, inside TurboTax's 20-year fight to stop Americans from filing their taxes for free. But this is a capitalist society. They have the right to, you got to pay. You got to pay. So I'm glad Intuit has seen the light. Thank you.
Leo,
and thank you, ProPublica, by the way, for doing it.
It's a lot easier to do your taxes.
If you only had FreshBooks.
If you only had an invoicing and expensing suite online, it would be so much easier.
This is the new way it's going to be, isn't it? Well, I'm glad to mention our sponsor at this point. FreshBooks, the #1 accounting software in the cloud for self-employed professionals and their teams. I actually used FreshBooks for many years when I was on my own, and I hated doing invoices. I hated it. And we went up to Canada to do a call for help, and I would always forget to invoice them and send them my expenses. And 6 months would go by, and I realized if you don't bill them, you don't get paid. Fortunately, I found FreshBooks, which made it very easy to do invoices. And in the process of doing this, you're really doing your bookkeeping without doing bookkeeping, because the invoices are, accounts receivable. When you get the invoice, you mark it. That's money in the bank. You also keep track of your expenses. In fact, they have features that'll go out to get your expenses from the bank account if you want. It's a great way for working with a team, because with FreshBooks, you have the ability to invite contractors, employees, and business partners to take charge of various projects. Give access to select individuals. You have complete control over who can see what, which will really help you get your job done. And everybody gets clarity on time-tracked budgets and deadlines. The thing that's great about FreshBooks is it's an online service. You get a great FreshBooks dashboard, they're always adding new features. It's always getting better. I mean, the fundamentals are there. Makes it easy to do the invoicing, makes it easy to send out notes when you don't get paid, makes it easy at tax time to assemble everything you need for your accountant. But now they've got all sorts of project management features. You can assign project due dates. You can get an overview on a project status, track team expenses, manage team products and deliverables. You can assign rates or hours to specific projects. You can have, keep track of hours, absolutely, and they automatically go into the invoices. And even different projects can have different hourly rates for the same client. You can deliver accurate job and project status to the client because they've got a thing now called Time Entry Report, which you send off. You have complete control over what members of the team can see and cannot. And their mobile app is fantastic. I would use it to take pictures of my expenses, get them right into the invoice. It does it in every possible currency. Helped me because I was sending invoices in Canadian dollars, but every currency in the world. In fact, FreshBooks is used worldwide. Over 24 million people have used FreshBooks. It is the easiest way to manage your business. It's the way you should be doing it. FreshBooks.com/twit. And enter This Week in Tech in the How Did You Hear About Us section. You'll get your 30 days free. FreshBooks.com/twit. Love it. Thank you, FreshBooks, for supporting the show. They've been a sponsor for many, many years. Yeah, and I should say, go to ProPublica and support them. I do. I donate. They're a kind of a public service journalism, and they really do a great job. And it's stuff like this that just is huge. It's huge. Nobody else took this on. This Intuit story. Hey, I want to.
ProPublica, we used to partner with them when I was working in Marketplace on stuff, and it was amazing. They would literally, people who would go to work for them in radio, the ProPublica folks would be like, okay, great, get to work. And the radio people would be so freaked out because the ProPublica folks would not give them deadlines. And they just, like the people that I worked with who went to, work on special projects for ProPublica would always just be like, I don't know what's going on. They haven't given me any deadlines. I'm really freaked out. And that's because ProPublica, they take the time that it takes to blow
That's really good.
Blow a story wide open. It's really, it's an important work.
They're keeping journalism alive. We just had a couple of visitors come in who were visiting from Victoria in Australia. It's great to have you, fleeing the smoke and the fires. I know we have a great many listeners in Australia, and boy, our hearts go out to you. We know a little bit about this, having had our own wildfires here in Northern California for the last 3 years, but it's unimaginable the scale of what is going on right now in Australia. You guys are okay and safe, I hope. It's been a many years drought, very, very dry in Australia. And, of course, when that happens, as we all know, you get just some terrible wildfires. It's the worst wildfire season in Australian history. 18 people have died, 1,000 homes. There are blazes all over the country. That's the other thing. Here in the U.S., it's been kind of restricted to California. But, boy, not in Australia. It is just devastating.
My aunt is in the capital in Canberra, and she literally just sent me this photo a couple of minutes ago. It's hard to see.
You can't breathe.
But
we know what that
we're
smoke
seeing
is like.
photos like this all over the place.
It's incredibly unhealthy.
Yeah.
So there's the fires, which is bad enough, but then most of the country is choking because you just can't breathe. There are a number of charities people can go to help support it, support our Australian friends. We have many, many listeners down there.
Well, they just sent a bunch of firefighters, right?
Yeah. I think this is something,
from California.
I am surprised, really, there hasn't been a greater international response to this. Maybe it's just taken people a while to figure out what's going on, but it is just heart-rending to see these pictures. This is a New York Times photo story about it. And boy, I recognize that air, man. I feel for you. So yeah, please. There are many charities you can you can do your part, and I hope that our friends stay safe and that things clear up. It is the heart of summer right now. It's very hot and very dry.
Is the Prime Minister there, the current Prime Minister, a climate change denier?
Yep. He's been a little... I've seen a number of videos of him pretending to care. It's really disappointing.
Did you see the one of him trying to shake the firefighter's hand?
And the firefighters wouldn't do it. Wouldn't do it.
And the firefighter had just lost his home.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. So I know it's not a tech story, but it's so important to us because we love Australia and we have so many Australian fans, and I just I'm sorry that you've had to suffer through this. So we have a new law in California that, besides the privacy bill, AB 5, which is really sending a shockwave through freelance journalists in the state, was aimed at Uber. It was aimed at gig workers who were being mistreated by companies, not as they weren't employees, they were contract workers. But it's ended up really hurting a lot of my friends who are tech journalists who can no longer, Aunt Pruitt, for example, can no longer work for Tech Republic because he moved to California. And the rules here about contract workers are so stringent that Tech Republic just doesn't want to deal with freelancers. I've seen the same thing. SB Nation had a number of editors who were part-timers submitting to their sports blogs who quit or were fired because of AB 5. Uber, Lyft, and DoorDash suing, as one might expect it. Postmates suing, as one might expect it. And then there's a bunch of money being raised for a ballot initiative to try to reverse AB 5. This is a complicated one because I understand how companies can take advantage of contract workers to avoid paying benefits, to avoid paying them well. And there have always been, some, series of rules that you had to satisfy to be a contract worker. But this now basically says, everybody needs to be an employee, and not every company can have employees.
But the issue with freelance journalists is interesting because they chose to write a very specific restriction into the law, something like 35 submissions per year.
That's right. The law also weirdly exempted direct salespeople, travel agents, grant writers, construction truck drivers, commercial fishermen. So there were these weird carve-outs, probably, again, lobbying from various industries. But it really hurt. I don't know about you, Ed, but I know a lot of freelancers who are kind of saying, wait a minute, I can't work.
Yeah, and I think that part of the law should be fairly easy to fix. It also is, I made a joke about it earlier, maybe before we were on air, talking about, these kids who are doing, basically they're doing piecework,
right,
for
$25 a post. Yeah.
And it really is exploitative. And I really would love to see that addressed. I'd love to see a system where people created some actual, where businesses like SB Nation and like Tech Republic, which I work for, by the way, if they, that they did more, hired more full-time employees, because that's what the country needs, is jobs, not gigs. Ultimately, gigs should be the thing that you do to make spare money. But it's turned into the thing where employers have figured out that they can use the gig labor system to basically just avoid hiring hardly any employees at all. The only employees they have to hire are managers and accountants.
I think that's what happened. It's not just Uber and Lyft, but Microsoft and Apple and Google all use third-party companies to hire contract employees who don't work for those companies. They work for the third-party companies. They don't get benefits.
Some do.
And some do, some don't.
I can tell you that from personal experience.
Yeah.
that some do, but as one of those contract workers, I get my taxes are paid, and I have the 401k.
And to be fair, Tech Republic said to Ant, "Well, you could be an employee." But the problem was that Ant had just taken a job with us and didn't want to be an employee of theirs. He's getting all those benefits from us. He wanted to continue to write for them, though. And that was part of the problem, was he couldn't continue to freelance for them. And they said, "We'll hire you. It's a good company. It's ZDNet." And,
right.
And it was, and they did the right thing by him. It wasn't their fault. But he was caught between, and that's where this is an issue, is that it also restricts choice for people who do want to work for a variety of reasons as contractors.
But people will choose. People will choose to be exploited if you.
I agree, and there are a lot of kids out of college working $10 a post, killing themselves.
So Ed, you said that that there was an easy fix to it. You thought for freelance journalists, what would that look like?
I hope I didn't say it was an easy fix. I think, but
you don't know the California Assembly.
I grew up in California, and my father was a legislator.
Oh, you do,
and
you do know the California legislature.
And I've read AB5. From start to finish several times, and it is a very specific sentence that is in there. And I think that if the legislator were interested in solving the problem, in identifying the problem and solving it, that it can be solved.
Would you do a carve out for journalists, or what would you do?
Well, I don't know what the answer is, because I don't know what the problem.
Right.
I mean, I know what the big problem is, but I don't know. I don't know why they put that specific, 35 number.
That's a weird.
Does it say 35 posts or 1 day at CES? Is that how it's described in the legislation?
The legislator who wrote the bill was asked, where did the number come from? And she said, well, initially, it was basically out of a hat. We calculated 1 post a day, but then that was too much. They didn't ask anybody. They made it up.
Right.
I wish I could find that article. We talked about it.
And that's what needs to happen. And then that particular legislator got involved in a couple flame wars on Twitter.
Right.
That were not pretty at all. So this has just been not a sterling example of the democratic process at work. For sure.
Yeah.
There haven't been many of those recently.
I might say it is, in a sense, that you do the best you can, and then you get feedback, and then it should be a feedback loop, and you fix it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
That would be ideal. You can't expect it to be perfect out the gate. You fix it, and the courts can help fix it. Legislators can help fix it. Unfortunately, as you know, Ed, here in California, we have a referendum process that's highly broken. And that's what's going to fix it, but it's not going to fix it in the right way, because it doesn't take very many signatures to get a proposition on the ballot in California. And basically, you can anything you want.
What do you have to? You're up to about Proposition 20,342 at this point, right?
Yeah, it's
and I'm old enough to remember Proposition 13.
Yeah, that was very famous limited property taxes.
Capped property taxes.
Yeah. The Jarvis bill.
Whose famous role in the movie Airplane.
Is he in Airplane?
He's in Airplane. He's the guy in the taxi.
Well, he was that famous at the time.
Yes.
That's pretty funny. I didn't realize that. I'll have to Howard Jarvis. Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. He passed away in 1986. But it was his idea that, you know what, like a lot of laws, it kind of on the surface made sense that older people were getting, makes sense now anyway, that older people were getting chased out of their homes by rising property taxes, and that there should be a cap. But what happened is it undermined the economy, because, of course, those property taxes went to schools. The California schools collapsed. Then we had a lottery. That was supposed to fix it, but that didn't work. And now we just have a bunch of drunk high school dropouts buying lotto tickets. So We all win.
And that impacted other states because legislators in other states, including Texas, wanted to emulate that.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the slogan for that proposition, another California ballot proposition. The schools win too. Except most of the money did not go to schools. It went to Las Vegas gambling interests who ran the lottery. Let's see. Where are we? Oh, hey, here's some good news. Speaking of taxes, Google is going to end the double Irish Dutch sandwich tax scheme. So this was the technique used by a lot of big tech firms to pay zero.
Apple famously as well, right?
Yeah. Pay no taxes by licensing intellectual property to Irish companies who then collected all the revenue and under a zero tax plan in Ireland, which is since, in fact, Ireland got in a lot of trouble for the EU for doing it. And then I guess you parlayed that money through Holland. That was the Dutch sandwich. Up to Bermuda. Google moved 21 billion euros through its Dutch holding company to Bermuda in 2018. They said they're not going to do it anymore. And, this was the argument, was it's perfectly legal for Apple, Google, Microsoft, and others to do this. It's perfectly legal. That's the tax law. And if you don't like it, go to Congress and get them to rewrite it. I'm not sure why Google would give this up. It's certainly a black spot on its escutcheon. But
I was trying to figure that out. Like, why are they, not, obviously they should do this, but why are they doing it? Is it Brexit related?
No, there were changes to the tax law in 2017. I think it mentions it in the lead graph there about repatriation.
Basically, they were able to bring the money back in the U.S., buy back stock, and not pay any tax on that. So why go through all the trouble of sending it to Bermuda?
Yeah. But the 2017 tax law included they lowered a lot of corporate tax rates, but they lowered one in particular for repatriated profits with the goal of, because they looked and they saw that, there were all these companies that had all these billions and billions of dollars that were held offshore. And the reason they were offshore, companies had them on their balance sheets, but they couldn't spend them except overseas.
Right.
As soon as they brought them back into the country, they were treated as ordinary income and had to be taxed at, whatever their 30% marginal rate was. And so they gave them a special repatriation rate. And
the theory was, and I remember this was a campaign promise of the Trump administration, the theory was these companies will take those billions, in Apple's case, almost $200 billion, and plow it back into research and employees, hiring. What Apple did almost entirely with it was stock buybacks to increase the value of its stock.
Not just them either.
I think most of them, and and increase executive pay and so forth. It doesn't really seem to do much to increase employee pay or build more jobs or any of that. So anyway, I guess it's good news. Maybe it's not, but they're going to stop the. I think it's bad news because I just like saying double Irish Dutch sandwich. Just a lot of fun for me. I'm curious what you all think of the Medium post by the former head of international relations at Google, who said, yeah, it was pretty harsh. I don't like to weigh into employee issues. He was let go or left. He says the company's motto used to be don't be evil, but things have changed. He says he was lobbying Google constantly to be a better global citizen. Things like, the China search engine, putting human rights ahead of the bottom line. And he felt that because he was so vocal about that, they fired him.
There's always two sides to these departure stories.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And that was what I was thinking as I was reading it. But at the same time, a lot of the stuff that he writes, and the other interesting piece of contextual information I thought was that he's now running for office in Maine, right? Yeah. So which, not to be too cynical about it, but it's a piece of information, right? But the the thing that struck me was a lot of that stuff really sounded on point, right? You could see like developers are so, it's like it's hallowed ground that the developers walk on, right? And if developers, if they really want to, and the same with the people who are selling the products, right? And maybe that's not hallowed ground, but those people, if you're making money off the product, that carries a lot of weight, right? And it sounded to me like this guy was really trying to uphold the sort of moral standards, whatever that might be, at the company. And when the developers want a thing, and when the people who are like selling the products want a thing, that's really tough to push back against that.
He also called out Google on some HR issues that, if these are true, are pretty disturbing. He says
super disturbing. Yeah.
Senior colleagues bullied and screamed at young women, causing them to cry at their desks. At an all-hands meeting, my boss said, "Now, you Asians, come to the microphone too. I know you don't like to ask questions." At a different all-hands meeting, the entire policy team was separated into various rooms and told to participate in a diversity exercise that placed me in a group labeled homos. While participants shouted out stereotypes such as effeminate and promiscuous, colleagues of color were forced to join groups called Asians and brown people in other rooms nearby. In each of these cases, I brought these issues to HR and was told the problems would be handled, yet there was no follow-up in any of these cases. Until the day I was accidentally copied on an email from a senior HR director in which he told a colleague, "I seem to raise concerns like these a lot," and instructed the colleague to do some digging on me instead. And then after 11 years, he was reorged out of his job.
I mean, HR exists to protect the company, not the employee, right? We all know that. The second example he gave there kind of popped out to me as super messed up in the way that he described it, but it was also kind of strange. Like, I mean, we don't know, but it seems
it's one
like,
side of it. It is absolutely.
I wanted to hear the full story of why the heck anyone at the company would think it would be okay to have a diversity exercise where you separate people into these groups. And that's almost seemed like I don't know. That was strange to me, that piece of the story. Yeah. It just seemed unbelievable to me, frankly. But again, I thought his piece overall seemed pretty on point and potentially very damaging.
It's exactly why when I brought this up, I said, I want to know what you guys think. Because I don't know. You can't really know in a personnel.
Well, it dovetails with a lot of what we've seen happening at Google already. I mean, you've got factions, going at each other. And I think the key point in that story is his reference, which others have made, that the founders had checked out long ago, and other people had kind of taken what they built and corrupted it. They were the ones that had the "don't be evil," and that really has gone by the wayside.
Yeah. It's hard for a company of that size, making that much money, wielding that much power globally, to not be evil.
So the thing that's interesting is that Google is up there with a handful of other companies, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, a few others that are in that class. But one thing that makes them different is that they're dealing almost exclusively in information, as opposed to physical products.
Yes.
Yes.
And boy, that's a real change, isn't it, from the industrial era where you made something and sold it.
Yeah. And so they were able. They checked out of China. Initially, it mentions it in that story there. They checked out of China for like 2 years. Sergey and Larry said, "Nope, we can't follow these rules." And then, I think when you don't have to connect very many dots to see somebody saying here, our stock price depends on us being a global company that competes in China, and if we don't do it, somebody else will, and they'll take all of our money, and we will start losing employees because our stock price will suffer. And ultimately, that is the thing. Ethics, you put on one side of the scale, and you put the company's stock price, which is the major motivator for hiring talent, especially developers. And that side of the scale just clunks right down and says we're going into China. Yep. Ethics be damned.
Yep. Let's take a break.
Yeah. That part really rung true.
There were a lot of stories that we are wrapping up because we haven't been doing a show for a couple of weeks. So we'll catch up on what happened during the holidays in just a second. But first, I want to tell you why I look so rested right now. I'm happy. I had a great night's sleep on my Casper. You will too. Casper is an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the cost because they figured out a critical insight. They looked around at mattresses and said, wait a minute, the mattress store, the place you go to sleep on it or lie, you don't even get to sleep on it, lie on it for a couple of minutes, is taking 100% markup. We could do it better by selling direct. So they obsessively engineered a great mattress, now several great mattresses, designed to mimic human curves, providing supportive comfort for all kinds of bodies. The original Casper I slept on for years combines multiple supportive memory foams for a quality sleep surface with just the right amount of sink and bounce. You want a little firm support, but you also want your bony bits to kind of sink in, and it does both. It's breathable, so you sleep cool. That's really important. 4.8 star reviews across Casper, Amazon, and Google, 20,000 reviewers. That's about as good as you can get. It's become the internet's favorite mattress. They now have some new ones, and I love the hybrid, but there's also the Wave and the Essential. I sleep on the hybrid. It combines the pressure relief of the award-winning foam with durable yet gentle springs. Watch this. It comes in this surprisingly compact box. They all do. Even with the springs, you open it up and whoosh, the mattress just full size. This is a king size, and man, is that comfortable. The Essential will save you a lot of money, too. So if you're a student, we actually sent an Essential to our son when he was in college. He didn't want to sleep on the mattress in the dorm for good reason, but it was affordable, so I said, leave it there when you leave after 4 years. You can be sure of your purchase because Casper knows you don't get to sleep on it in the showroom, but you do get to sleep on it for 100 nights risk-free. If at any point you say, yeah, never mind, even the kitty cats love the Casper. If at any point you say, nah, it's not for me, call them. They'll come, they'll get your mattress, they'll refund you every penny. Casper offers free shipping and painless returns in the U.S. and Canada. Get a Casper mattress today. In fact, we're going to save even more right now. If you use the TWIT1 offer code, go to casper.com/TWIT1. The offer code is TWIT and the number 1. $100 towards select mattresses. That's nice. Terms and conditions apply. $100 off select mattresses when you go to Casper, CASPER, casper.com/TWIT1. But you got to use the offer code TWIT1. We love Casper. What a great idea. This is kind of the poster child for a company figuring out a better way to sell a product. Casper.com/TWIT1 for the new year. Android Police reports and Samsung confirms the Samsung Galaxy 20. They're skipping to 20. Will be revealed February 11th, Tuesday, 11 p.m. It's in San Francisco this time, 11 a.m., I should say, Pacific time. It could be the S11, but the rumors are it'll be named the S20. So Samsung unpacked or unboxed coming on the 11th. Just in case you were waiting, wondering when the next... What are you laughing at?
What I like is that they're doing it in San Francisco, right in Apple's backyard. I think
that might be why, huh? I never thought of that.
Yeah. They usually do it, don't they usually do it in
New York was the last one, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
They move around, which is nice.
Right.
And
but
they do
I
them
think
at
Apple
IFA. They do them at IFA in Berlin.
Right.
September.
Apple has used that facility before for their own presentation.
Oh.
So
where is it?
It's the Fine Arts Palace.
Oh, Palace of Fine Arts is beautiful. Oh, that'll be fun. Yeah. Maybe we'll have to go. We'll certainly be covering it.
So, a lot of numbering decisions are made because of the superstitions or associations with numbers.
Is 11 a bad number?
No.
We know 9 must have been because everybody skipped. There was Windows 10.
I don't know. I don't know whether that's an issue. I know that they'd be on the road to 13 very quickly, though.
Oh, yeah, you don't want that. And it is 2020, so the S20.
So yeah, why not just go straight from 10 to 20, and then you can go 30 and 40, and
pretty soon, don't you run out of numbers? I guess not.
That's what we thought about Chrome back when they started doing. Remember?
Yeah. What is Chrome up to now? 80 something, right?
It's version 81, or I think the 83 for the Canary builds or something.
That's right.
What do you think about?
Google is a big number.
Yeah, Google is as big as you get.
Right.
Or is Googleplex a little bit bigger?
Google.
Googol.
O-L, right.
Right.
One with 100 zeros.
Right.
And then a Googleplex is a Google of Googles, I think.
Yes, I think you're right.
So
we'll never know. I can't count that high. Sonos did something that's getting a lot of heat. They offered a 30% rebate for existing Sonos speaker owners. But then if you take it and you buy the new device, your old device has 21 days and then is bricked. You can't resell it. You can't recycle it. In that sense, you have to break it down to parts, and they're getting a little bit of a heat right now.
And as I understand it, you can't even use it as a dumb speaker.
No, you can't use. It's just not functional.
Like if they had wanted to say, okay, you can just use it as a Bluetooth speaker,
right?
But it won't have any smarts in it at all. It'll just be a Bluetooth target. Fine.
Sonos's statement on this is these older products lack the processing power and memory to support the modern Sonos experience. Over time, technology will progress in ways these products are not able to accommodate. So they're afraid that somebody will get a hand-me-down Sonos and be disappointed. I don't buy that at all. I don't.
No, that's complete BS.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pull the other one, Sonos.
I think we have to start switching the names of these. Like, to me, the dumb speakers are the smart speakers now.
Oh, maybe you're right. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I've got speakers that I have to connect them with wires, but there's nothing like, unless I blow them, they will work forever.
Unhackable.
Right? I don't think you should
unhackable.
Never mind. I'm just going to stop right here.
Yeah.
Houston Chronicle, business section. Fry's. You have Fry's in Houston. I thought they were only in California.
Yeah. No. They're across the country. We've got about 3 or 4 of them here. This actually is a San Francisco Chronicle story that we're both Hearst, so we pulled it in. But we have 3 or 4 of them here.
So this is a beloved electronics store for geeks because just aisle after aisle. But lately, people have noticed the shelves are empty.
Yes. And from what I understand, it was pretty disappointing at Black Friday and Christmas because people were going in there and there was nothing to sell. And Fry's has said that what's happening is they're converting to a consignment model, which is the same thing that the new Toys R Us Toys R Us stores that are popping up, where the vendor provides the product but doesn't get paid until it's sold. And it's hard to convert to that because what vendor is going to want to do that?
So basically they got no stock.
Right.
I have to think that, Fry's, one of the reasons we still love Fry's is it was one of the last. CompUSA is gone. All of these stores have gone out of business. Circuit City, Best Buy Bear is hanging on, but that's about it.
Well, and Micro Center, which is based out of Ohio.
We don't have any Micro Centers here, I don't think.
Yeah. Micro Center is one of the ones here. In fact, you can, if I walk upstairs to the window on the 3rd floor of the Chronicle building, 4th floor of the Chronicle building, I can see the Micro Center store. And what's interesting is it's doing great.
Oh.
It's fully stocked. It has a good crowd in it.
Good.
They're known for their customer service, which Fry's was not.
Well, that's the only thing you can sell because otherwise I'm just going to go to Newegg or Amazon. You've got to, if you're a brick and mortar, you got to find a service model.
Right.
That's the only way.
So I think that Fry's is, they're saying that they're going to keep going, but they have started closing stores, And, so far, there's not a lot of consignment goods showing up in their stores.
So we thought it would be the Millennium Bug, the 2000 bug that would break things. Apparently, parking meters in New York City never thought they'd be around in 2020. They're not accepting credit cards because they were never programmed to work in 2020.
This is so funny.
What? I
mean, it's not funny. It's not funny, but it's funny.
No, it's funny. It's the future. This is the future.
This is going to happen more and more.
I saw one programmer who responded to this today on Twitter or yesterday, and they said what happened in 1999 or 1998 and 99 when people were doing a lot of remediation for these problems is that there were the big fixes where you went in and you removed all the 4-digit determinants. And then there was another one where you said, well, we don't have time to do an actual fix for it. So what we'll do is we'll do a hack that says if it's a 2-digit number that's between 00 and 19, it's 20. If it's between 20 and 99, it's 19. And so they thought, well, surely sometime in the next 20 years,
2020 they'll fix this.
Someone will take this off the to-do list.
So this is a Y2K
This
clue?
is a Y2K.
Is that what you're saying?
This is a Y2K problem.
I
20
don't
years
know whether
later.
that's the case in this specific bug, but there's a whole class of systems that were fixed this way. I know there are, there's a 2038 bug.
That's the Unix. Unix.
Right, that's Unix.
Log. Yeah.
No, but I mean that's a different thing. But this one was just a hack. So let's let's use 2-digit years for another 20 years.
Why didn't they make it 2050 or even 2040? That's
for
crazy.
a lot of things. There's a certain logic. It's literally the 80-20 rule.
You won't be using these parking meters in 2020. We'll have flying cars by then.
Yeah, exactly.
Replace them. Yeah, we'll have completely replaced them.
Well, no, apparently 14,000 parking meters in New York City no longer accept credit cards. They're working to fix those as fast as they can. You must have put this in here, Karsten, because I don't even know what it means. Mr. Beast's team trees smash $20 million goal with days to spare. What the hell is Mr. Beast's team trees?
You don't know team trees?
No.
This is like the biggest thing on. This
On
has been
YouTube?
a huge thing on YouTube, on Reddit, on most social. Like Facebook,
Ben will know about
Twitter.
this then. Jimmy
Yes,
Mr.
yes.
Beast Donaldson, a YouTuber, is known for giving out insane amounts of money to people, but now he's managed to organize one of the internet's most successful charity drives, the Team Trees campaign. They got $20 million in donations to plant trees.
Elon Musk gave them $1 million. Jack Dorsey gave them $1,001.
Of course. Of course. PewDiePie,
And a spool of thread.
Ninja, and a spool of thread. Wow. 20 million trees. See, I poo-poo YouTube, but clearly I'm wrong. That's pretty impressive. That's amazing.
That's great.
Yeah. Speaking go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's like, I feel like people were talking about this and comparing it to the Bezos tree planting initiative and sort of saying like, see, you could just pay your taxes and we'll take care of this part of it.
Do the tree part. You do the tax part.
Yeah, just pay your taxes.
This is the story that tells me it's the end of the world as I know it. The list of highest YouTube earners is topped by an 8-year-old who made $26 million in 2019, up $4 million from 2018. He's an 8-year-old boy who reviews toys on YouTube. Forbes is estimating, I don't think anybody's saying how much he makes, but he's estimating that he is... Ryan Kaji. Wow. The 10 highest earners on YouTube made $162 million between June 1st, 2018 and June 1st, 2019. Lots of kids. A 5-year-old made $18 million. Anastasia Redzinskaya. She appears in videos with her dad. She's got cerebral palsy. She has 107 million subscribers over 7 channels. Her videos, she's 5, have been watched 42 billion times. Dude.
I mean, it's really their parents that are making this money, right?
Well, yeah, I hope they're putting some aside. Dude Perfect. I mean, who made Shirley Temple's money? I mean, after all. Dude Perfect, a group of 5 friends in their 30s who play sports and perform stunts, came in second, earning $20 million. Poor PewDiePie. He used to be number 1. He is number 7, made a mere $13 million last year.
Oh, that's what you get when you take a break.
He says he's going to take a break because he feels very tired. Now,
poor PewDiePie.
I don't know if they're going to make this kind of money next year. Rhett and Link, good for them, $17.5 million. I don't know if they're going to make this kind of money next year because, as you know, there's no more personalized advertisements on children's content. So the kids.
Ouch.
I hope, Ryan, you put some of that $26 million aside for a rainy
Well, you know
day.
that there is. You mentioned Shirley Temple, but there is a law, the Shirley Temple child labor law. It was passed June 25th, 1938.
Wow, you are a font of weird knowledge.
That's if you're ever
please be on my trivia team.
You ever on that show? Yeah, I'm your phone a friend, man.
Was that because her parents stole the money, or?
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
I don't know if they stole her money, but it was that
she borrowed
was
it.
The first child star to be a huge earner,
right.
And there were child stars that had their parents stealing all their money, and so they passed a law, and it sets up trusts. It's the one that sets up that the kids have to go to school.
Oh yeah. We know about that, right? You gotta get
all those things.
Teacher and all.
So
that. Yeah.
It's a famous law.
Famous among your circle. Do you have her autograph? Did you meet her in your youth?
Never.
So does this law apply to these kids?
Sure, right?
No.
If they live in the United States, if they live in the United States,
YouTube ain't the movies, kid.
YouTube ain't the movies.
Yeah.
Finally, a good news story out of the EU. The Patent Office has rejected 2 patent applications in which an artificial intelligence was designated as the inventor. This is from Mike Masnick writing at TechDirt. The EPO, the European Patent Office, has rejected the patents. Both indicate DABUS, D-A-B-U-S, as the inventor, which is described as a type of connectionist artificial intelligence. The applicant stated they acquired the right to the European patent from the inventor by being its successor in title. Apparently, DABUS didn't have the Shirley Temple Act of 1938 to protect it.
Isn't that just going to make the robots matter?
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Take away their earning power.
I guess the thought is, well, you got to give these AI some incentive so they can make money on their inventions, or they're just going to rebel.
Was it a patent for Skynet?
Yeah, probably. You can't patent that. Folks, this has been a lot of fun, but I have a flight to catch to Las Vegas, Nevada for something that's going to be even more fun.
Good luck.
The annual gathering of the
watching.
flu germs, known as CES.
Godspeed, Leo.
Godspeed. Maybe everybody should subscribe to Dwight's newsletter, because tomorrow the Q&A on the Windows 7 end of life, HoustonChronicle.com/newsletters, release notes. Ed'll be there explaining how you can keep your Windows 7 alive.
Yeah, sure. Appreciate it, Ed. By the way,
great.
while we were discussing some of these things, I finally got the T-Mobile 5G, the OnePlus McLaren, powered up, and I was doing some speed tests with that.
Yeah.
And my T-Mobile iPhone 11 Pro Max, and the iPhone 11 Pro Max in 4G was blowing away the T-Mobile 5G. I was getting 125 megabits down on the iPhone, and I think I maxed at about 45 megabits down on the 5G.
It's not your fault. The other guy who has a 5G phone was probably
using it too.
Yeah.
He's streaming in 8K.
That just tells you something, right? That's right. Yeah. I'm watching a movie. Ben Brock Johnson, WBUR. And by the way, we should give you a plug because you did the Endless Thread podcast on New Year's resolutions. How have you done?
Boo. Personal boo to myself. I haven't done that well. I've done okay, but I've done all right. I was trying to change my eating habits and work out more. And I've done a little bit of both, but not as clearly not as much as I should.
I'm sure you did as I do, which is, but if I do this in public, I'll be held accountable. I'll have to do it.
That's the problem I ran into too, and I didn't do it. So
yeah, this goes back to the day that I put my scale on Twitter. Hoping that the daily humiliation of weighing myself in public would cause me to lose weight. It did not. And now I can't figure out how to get the scale off of Twitter. So
I'll give you a better episode, a less sad episode to listen to of our shows.
Okay.
We recently did a relatively deep dive on the Max Headroom broadcast interruption incident. Which I don't know if you guys know about that in Chicago.
Did Max Headroom break through in Chicago?
Yeah, so somebody wearing a Max Headroom mask interrupted two broadcasts, one on public television and another on one of the big TV stations there. That
Did they ever catch the guy?
Never caught.
Wow.
Never caught. And it's a really interesting story. It's there have been some sort of amateur sleuths on Reddit that have tried to solve it. Still unsolved, but really interesting story. So if anyone remembers Max Headroom, that's a fun episode to listen to.
I will definitely listen to that one. I'll listen to it on the plane. Ed Bott, the author of the great Ed Bott report is ZDNet. Make sure you check it out. 6 life-changing habits. Tech habits that will change your life. You need this year. Give me one, just one. I don't need 6. One. What's a life-changing tech habit?
Get a password manager.
Yes. Yay. Maybe LastPass would be a good choice. Thank you, Ed. It's so great to see you again. Thank you, Dwight. As always, a thrill. It's been 10 years since you and I were sitting out front of Moscone Center. Steve Jobs had just announced
That's right.
The iPad.
That's right. 10 years.
Wow. Our lawn chairs in front of Moscone. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. Thank you also, Ben. It's great to have all three of you. Twit is back.
It's always great to be on.
We do the show every Sunday after the radio show, about 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. That would be 22:30 UTC. If you want to watch live, we have a live stream at twit.tv/live. You should watch our best of episode from last week. That was a lot of fun. Some of the best moments of 2019. And me in a Santa costume.
It's good.
New show next week. It's always a lot of fun. In fact, the best thing you could do is subscribe. You can get any episode at twit.tv. This Week in Tech. Just go to twit.tv, click the link for shows. You'll find it. But if you subscribe in your favorite podcast application, you're going to have to go to a lot of trouble. You just automatically download it. Plus, it helps us. So subscribe, if you will, to This Week in Tech. If you want to be in the studio like our couple escaping the smoke in Australia, all you have to do is email tickets at twit.tv. We'll put a chair out for you. And I promise we'll keep our security guard from tasing you. You didn't get tased? No. See? People are scared. No reason to be scared. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time. Another Twit. I'll be back from CES. I'll probably be talking like this. Another Twit. It's in the can. Take care.
Doing the Twit.